everybody. How are you? It's Connor here, back with another Patreon radio. And it's been a little while, and I really just didn't have anything to say. So I didn't record anything. But now I do, and I want to talk about timelines. Timelines, because I think this is just really interesting. It's an interesting concept to help us understand where we're going, where we've come from, and how we can take direct charge. So I think the lesson that I keep on repeating here over and over again is that we have to look at ourselves as we have to kind of take the blame. We have to look on ourselves as the chief architect of all that we experience. And when you can begin to look on yourself, when you can begin to see, I'm responsible for this scenario, I'm responsible for this, then it makes you feel a little bit like you are God, rather than just a tiny ant at the bottom of an insurmountable cliff. So when we can feel, when we can recognize, when we can see our own hand in the circumstances that are happening to us, the scenarios around us, then at least you can say, oh, okay, I get it. I made that happen. So when you wake up in the morning and you feel dehydrated and groggy and you don't want to get out of bed, you can see, oh, it's because I ate a quattro stagione pizza last night and washed it down with a bottle of Coca-Cola. So I'm dehydrated and stodgy, right? So when you can begin to look at all the different scenarios in your life, your relationships, some of the dynamics with your family, your work, even your health, and begin to see what was the bad food choice that I made, or the bad, it's not always food, but kind of like connecting it to what was the bad choice that I made, what was the decision I made that wasn't really the wisest decision, the wisest choice. And that way you can recognize, I am really in control here. I am always in control. So timeline is basically the sequence of events in the order that they happen. So quite often, for example, when I'm working with a client and they'll tell me about themselves and they'll say, well, I'm drinking, or I'm doing this, or they'll talk about like a bad habit or something, and I'll be able to predict, because I'll be able to predict a timeline. I'll say, well, with this current pattern, and if this pattern continues, you'll most likely get sick, or you'll lose your relationship, or something else. You know, your timeline is kind of where you are going to based on what you are. It's a little bit like playing the tape forward. You know, I think when you look in your own life and you see some of the circumstances around you, you can look at the timeline that you're on. Now, timelines are things that change all the time. A timeline is not a prison sentence. A timeline is just what you can base your future, how you can predict your future based on your present. But your timeline is changing all the time. At a very, very simple level, when you decide, I'm not going to have the quattro stagione pizza, I'm going to have a nice healthy salad, for example, when you switch timelines in that moment. When you are in a relationship and there's something happens that makes you unhappy, and you're currently on the timeline of suppressing your happiness, the day that you go, hey, that thing that happened made me really unhappy, is the day you jump off that timeline and onto another one. So just a little example. A few days ago, I had an altercation with my mother. And in this altercation, what happened is I went looking for sympathy. Now, I know And this is a little bit of the masochist in me. I know that my mother is not a guarantor of sympathy. I have other people in my life, and if I express something to them, they'll come back with, oh, Jesus, that must be so hard. But not my mother. With my mother, because she has so much of her own internal pain, it's very, very difficult for her to sympathize. Because my mother doesn't look on the world as a place. She doesn't look on the world as a bed of roses. She looks on the world as a place of sacrifice and pain and martyrdom. This is what has attracted her so much to the church. But I digress. So I went looking for sympathy, and instead the response I got was, well, now you can understand how it is for other people. So she kind of, instead of offering sympathy or even just listening, she responded with a kind of a moralizing, right? You might recognize this too from your own mothers. I think this is a bit of an Irish mother archetype. And maybe not just an Irish mother archetype. I know my Colombian partner, she sometimes gets that response too. So what that did is it immediately created a negative sensation in my body. That negative sensation was anger and resentment. So, with those negative sensations, what I was doing energetically was really similar to eating a quattro stagione pizza. I don't know why I'm bashing on quattro stagione pizzas. They're really good, and cheese isn't necessarily a bad thing. But this is just the metaphor for today's podcast. So, even though like a 4 cheeses pizza isn't the worst thing in the world, I want us all to imagine, for the sake of the metaphor, that it is the worst thing you can put in your body. It's like eating 4 flavors of arsenic. But anyway, when you begin to feel hate and anger and resentment and bitterness in your body, it's the same as eating 4 cheese quattro stagione pizza. That's what it does. And immediately what it did to me is it brought me onto another timeline. And I noticed it in the next 12 hours. Things that would have come easily for me, like recording something, writing something, were a chore. I noticed as well that I had no patience with the dogs. I was kind of angry with the pups. These are 5-month-old dogs, like they barely got their walking coordination on the go. You know, they get scared of doors that shut in the wind, and I was angry at them. And then a little thing, you know, like the chain came off my bicycle, and there was a couple of other just sort of little mishaps I got given out to on the street that never happens to me. But like where I live in Mallorca, people are very friendly, very open, but suddenly someone just sort of shouted at me on the street for me not paying attention when I was on my bicycle. It doesn't happen here, but it happened to me. So I was suddenly on this timeline of stress and aggression, and I got on that timeline because I reacted to my mother's typical response, a response I could have predicted, and I reacted with anger and resentment. So then, and you can probably recognize this yourself, like when you create negativity in yourself, when you respond to something with negativity and you allow that negativity to fester, you immediately call in a different timeline. This timeline will be one which is probably not very pleasing to you. So, and I'm not saying that these timelines are bad, and I'm not saying that when you find yourself on a displeasing timeline that you're in trouble, but I'm just saying that you can and you should recognize that you're the architect. You're making this happen. So by all means, experience negativity all you want, because negativity also teaches us contrast. We get to see, there's something else I could be experiencing here. I don't want this. So what am I going to do? So what I did in that moment, after 36 hours of kind of broiling in little moments of anger and resentment and why me, I came back to Ho'oponopono. Now the Ho'oponopono it's a poem, really. It's from an Hawaiian tribe, and it's a way of going back to zero. It's a way of pressing reset. And the words to the Ho'oponopono are very simple. You go, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you repeat it. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you repeat it as a mantra. And what it does, pretty much it's like when you drink one of those vinegar gut cleanses, something you might drink after the morning after a quattro stagione pizza, for example. When you drink one of those drinks, it flushes your system. You spend half the morning in the bathroom, but afterwards you're like right as rain and you can eat whatever you want again. And the Ho'oponopono poem is that. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Coming back to that place resets your frequency. It resets your frequency and then drops you up, sends you back up to the timeline that you want to be on. And I immediately noticed that this morning. This morning I woke up and I lay in bed and I kind of chanted that internally for minutes until I could really feel it in my body and could feel this sense of like, thank you, Mom. Thank you for showing me this, and I love you, and thank you for doing your best with all the pain that's inside your body. And I appreciate you, and I'm so sorry for carrying all that resentment, which I didn't voice, but maybe you could feel. And please forgive me. And as you start to do this Ho'oponopono, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, you'll notice it extending to other people. People who you've maybe secretly resented, maybe you've had like grudges towards, and so on and so forth. And it can become historical. And as you clear out all of this, you'll notice your energy increasing. And that's a sign that you are moving up the timeline. You are jumping timelines. A great sign that you're on a timeline that you don't want to really be on is when your energy is zapped. So as I continued to do this, I just noticed that I had no stress. I hadn't any stress, and so I went out and I took the dogs out first thing. I normally take them out a little bit later in the day. I let them sleep in the morning because they're lazy little fuckers. But I took them out this morning and the world was beautiful. And I felt the beauty of the world. And I ran into someone I really liked and we had a lovely conversation, and I then, had a client call, and the client call was just beautiful. I feel like I got as much from it as I gave, and so on and so forth. And I can immediately recognize, okay, I'm back on the timeline that I want to be on. And that's the timeline where I am at peace with the world and everything that I want comes towards me. You could call it the path that you're on, and I think it's just really, really useful to just become aware of this. Become aware of the timeline that you're on right now. And then begin to look at, okay, well, what are the small changes I can make? What sort of negative feelings am I carrying? Am I carrying resentment inside of me? Am I carrying this sense of victimhood? Am I blaming someone else? Because all of these things will keep you on the timeline of persecution. We don't want to be on the timeline of persecution. I think we've all been on it for far too long. The timeline that we want to be on is the one of joy and abundance and magic. These can really be days of magic. So recognizing, I want to be back on that magical, abundant, joyful timeline. And I know that my way to get there is to flush out the negativity in my system and to call in the positivity, the beautiful positivity. And that's it. That's really all I wanted to talk about. This idea that we can upgrade our timeline. We don't want to be stuck in it. Look on yourself as some sort of a frequency magnet, right? then clean out your frequency. Because that's what ensures the timeline that you're on is the most pleasant one. From my knowledge of life and everything that we have, is we have many, many goes at this. We come back and we have many lives, and I think for the vast majority of us, the lives that we've known have been ones of scarcity and survival and persecution. So, how great to have the opportunity to change that all now. So, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. Love you too. Alright, bye bye, thank you.